Greetings. I'm Dr. Bahia Muhammad, Assistant Professor of Criminology in the Department of Sociology and Criminology at Howard University. I am excited to welcome you back to another session with the research team, getting an inside look into the way that we are analyzing the emerging themes from this preliminary research study. Today, we're going to be discussing with you navigating ivory towers, pathways to education among children of incarcerated parents. One of the things that we identified and we are excited to reveal is that education was the highest achievement among children of incarcerated parents, and that was followed by employment. We are excited to state that the majority of students that talked about education highlighted a plethora of opportunities that were made available to them in the college setting. Not only were we able to engage and receive narratives on college education, we also received stories about high school, as well as in the elementary sessions where individuals were able to get advice as it related to navigating toward the ivory tower. I want to give both of my colleagues an opportunity to share their insights as it relates to their studies and interviews with children of incarcerated parents.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sydney Turner. I am a second-year master's student at Howard University. In terms of education among children of incarcerated parents that we interviewed, focusing on high school, I did some interviews where individuals who lacked resources were able to find resources within the school system. So that meant whether it was an advisor or a teacher and they were unable to pay for maybe a college application or didn't even know how to apply for college, they received those resources from those instructors. They received advice on even maybe just simple questions that they may had in regards to maybe being scared or nervous, didn't even know if they were worthy of going to college. They received that information, which uplifted them and promoted the success and resiliency among each individual.
Yes, and I'm Dr. Brittany Gatewood, and some things that I noticed is that most of the people that I interviewed fell outside the school to prison pipeline, right? Yes. So they weren't really in trouble a lot during while they were in high school or elementary school. And also many of them, it wasn't an option not to go to college, right? They didn't think like, oh, I'm not going to go to college. It was like, oh yeah, I'm going to college. And so in a lot of and we talk about parenting in the other session, but a lot of their parents encouraged them education wise. And so the education was a big deal because even if their parents didn't finish college or didn't go to college, their parents were very determined for them to go to college and finish it. And a lot of the people that we interviewed have multiple degrees. It's not just a BA, but there's master's students or PhD students. And even talking to the PhD students or the master students, many of them took their experience of being incarcerated, child of incarcerated parents into their studies. And so they incorporated things that happened to them previously into their stories, whether it's through artistic expression or whether it's through stuff that they do with their dissertation or the disciplines that they decided to go into, that they integrated their story within higher education and the scholarship that is currently being put out by these amazing scholars now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gatewood, and Sydney as well. I'm reminded now also just hearing you all talk about it, how schools were seen as a safe zone, almost in the same way that we talk about the churches and having access to all of the different resources in the individuals that would attend a church. You found the same things in school. I remember one of the particular interviews that stands out to me as I listened to the both of you share on your insight was one particular female interviewee from Maryland who was a foster child, and her coach adopted her so that she was able to maintain her scholarship for track. And that to me is just phenomenal. And in talking about it, she was open and honest to be able to share with her coach that her parents, both of them, were incarcerated. And so to be open and to be able to share that narrative and not be stigmatized or not be forced into silence actually gave her an opportunity at a resource that would have not been there if she did not share that. I also think that it's important to highlight these ways in college campuses where individuals utilize a study abroad opportunity in order to get away. Some of the individuals talked about steering away from a life of crime because they did not stay in the community in which that they were raised, that they were interested in applying to schools that were far away from where they lived, that they wanted to have a fresh start. That they wanted to make the decision if they wanted to share their story or not. So although they were successful, they didn't walk around saying, hey, my dad's in prison, or hey, my mom's in prison. Oftentimes, some of the interviewees talked about sharing this intimate story in a classroom. A lot of the students that we interviewed that were experiencing parental incarceration currently or formerly talked about being sociology, criminal justice, or criminology, or even political science majors, and actually having to read about the criminal justice system and mass incarceration, and that bringing them closer to their incarcerated parent, but also closer to their narrative, where they embody their experience around all of this interesting information they were reading. For example, Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. So schools, I mean, not only was this one of the major stepping stones for children of incarcerated parents, it really allowed them to find their voice, practice their voice, write about their voice. One particular study I remember the young lady talked about in her personal statement, she included that she was a child of an incarcerated parent, and that was the way that she got accepted in the program. But another individual talked about how she didn't use it on certain applications because she didn't want to be stigmatized as a result of sharing that information. So in these settings, they were empowered in their ability to use and not to use their stories of parental incarceration. What advice do you have for practitioners that are working with groups of children of incarcerated parents? Now that we know that education is a strong and solid step that saves individuals and leads them toward a life of success and resilience.
First thing that came to mind was providing them with the necessary resources. Most of these children may come from impoverished urban settings, and they may not have the actual resources that they need in order to receive that higher education. So whether it be having, well, first and foremost, maybe mental health is a resource that they would need, that if you're not even in your right mind, then you're not even thinking about going to college or higher education, whether it be providing that application money, waiving the fees in order to apply for college. So as far as just advice for practitioners, I would say really dive deep into what resources that this particular population may need because their parents are incarcerated. So focusing on that.
Right, thank you.
Yes, I agree with everything that Sydney said. And I would add that, and I think this is a common theme throughout some of the videos that we have been doing, is the fact of taking into cultural considerations.
Yes.
And many of the interviewees, a lot of them focus on high school and graduating high school. Even if they graduated undergrad, it's like high school was a big deal. And so, especially within the Black community, we know educational attainment in general, not many people complete college. So we know that a lot of Black college students, they start it but do not complete it. So talking about retention, I think retention is a big thing. Yes, they can get their foot in, but it could be a whole bunch of factors, as you know, the struggles of Black students on campuses. And also, I would say practitioners should also keep into consideration that there's different avenues to get education, right? It doesn't maybe have to be a 4-year college, right? They can start at a community college or those type of things. And a lot of the neighborhoods that these people come from could be impoverished and those type of things. So they might not have the educational resources to just plop right into a 4-year university.
Right.
And so, yes, giving them resources to succeed, not just putting their foot in the door, because I think a lot of things fall short of making sure that people actually matriculate. And so there's a lot of people that maybe had to stop to help pay for stuff or those type of things. So I think practitioners especially need to focus on retention within high school, within undergrad, or within graduate school for this population, because it could be harder for them to matriculate through.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. We know in the research that there are robust articles that highlight the successes of individuals in schools. But one of the things that we definitely have learned from looking at the experiences among children of incarcerated parents from a framework of resilience is that we need way more resources to be poured into getting students into college. I know that there are a few organizations that provide scholarships specifically for children of incarcerated parents. I know in DC, Yasmin Arrington, who is an amazing and a phenomenal role model for children of incarcerated parents across the nation, was applying for college in high school and didn't find any scholarships for children that had a parent in prison. And so she's created an organization that now has funded children across the nation and now is providing mentoring services for them so that they are able to matriculate, similar to what you're talking about, Dr. Gatewood. And I think it's really important that we see more. We know the Dream Academy is across the nation and providing similar services and have been around for some time, but we need a lot more. If we're talking about 7 million or more children that are affected, I mean, we need way more than 2 programs. And so I'm really excited that we are and have been finding out new information and creating new findings by looking at it from an asset-based perspective as opposed to a deficit-based perspective. And not only have we identified new research, we are also able to operationalize how to go about doing it. And so I think that was the important component in identifying positive aspects of the ways that individuals are dealing with having a parent in prison. And as you all can see in the chart below, you can also be able to download this from the website. Education and employment are toe-to-toe. And oftentimes in an educational environment, you have to do an internship and that could be paid or not paid. And also individuals, depending on their financial package, may have access to work study. And work study is an opportunity to get a job where you're not going to be stigmatized because you have a parent in prison. Automatically, they work around your school schedule. So it prioritizes your school work and your matriculation and your sustainability in the ivory tower. You also see that we go down and there's creativity, there's also health, and other categories, relationships. We have panels that are connected to all of these areas. So please make sure that you go back and you review your program for the conference and just go on and highlight the sessions that you're interested in. We hope that we can see you in a lot of those, but definitely make sure that you are listening to the panels of success stories where they will highlight for themselves through their own words and narratives how they utilized ivory towers as a means for jumping into a life of sustained success. Because again, it's not just about getting there, it's sustaining it for the long haul. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you chime back in. Sign up for our listserv so that you are able to get updates as it relates to our white paper, because we have a whole lot more to say on this topic. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.